deliberate for the good of this country and for the glory of thy holy name. Honorable members, please join with me as we say together the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Give us this day our daily bread, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Pray be seated.
I am advised by proclamation that the 2024 sitting of the National Youth Parliament, duly appointed, should meet and transact their business in this honorable house on the 10th day of June 2024. I am further advised by the proclamation that the affairs of this National Youth Parliament will be conducted with wisdom, temper, and prudence, and that upon all occasions, the rights of all citizens and members will be respected and recognized.
Honorable members, I am not unmindful of the honor which you have conferred on me today in electing me to this highest of office, that of your Speaker and your servant. It will be my aim and duty to uphold the principles and traditions of this House and secure for each member the right to express his or her opinions within the limits necessary to preserve the decorum of this House. I pledge to recognize the rights and privileges of the honorable members and the House itself. I also wish to assure you that I will preside in a manner which will facilitate the orderly transaction of the debate. And above all, I will seek to be fair and impartial in the decisions, the rules of Parliament, and you yourselves entrust to me. This honorable House is now in session.
Confirmation of minutes. Announcement by Madam Speaker.
Honorable members, let me now remind you of the rules governing the sitting of this House. Only one member may be standing or speaking at any given time. Members may not read their speeches but refer to notes. Members may not read quotes without permission and may not quote from the news media. Speeches may not contain matters that refer negatively to persons who are not of the House and who therefore have no opportunity to reply. Speeches may not contain any offensive or insulting language. Be mindful of these rules and standing orders as we proceed into today's sitting. We, the Youth Parliament of the Parish of St. Andrew, acknowledge the presence of Honorable Minister Lennox Andrew, Senator the Honorable David Andrew, Honorable Gloria Thomas, Ms. Janella Edwards, and Mr. Basil Richards. They are here in our midst as strangers in our gallery. I remind all the strangers in the gallery that they are to remain silent, not to show support or opposition for any member of the House, and they are to otherwise conduct themselves in a manner so as to not disrupt the proceedings of this honorable House.
Resolutions.
Honorable Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, I wish to move for the adoption of the standing in my name. Whereas the right to bear arms is a fundamental aspect of individual liberty and self-defense enshrined in various national and international legal frameworks, and whereas the responsible exercise of the right to bear arms requires a balanced approach, and whereas the government of Grenada recognizes the rights of citizens to bear arms under the Firearms Act, and whereas the proliferation of illegal firearms and gun-related violence poses significant challenges to public safety and community well-being, and whereas ensuring effective regulations and oversight of firearms is essential to prevent unauthorized access to firearms and reduce the risk of gun-related violence, be it resolved that this Honorable House reaffirms the rights of individuals in Grenada to bear arms within the parameters established by law. Be it further resolved that the government, in collaboration with relevant stakeholders, strengthen and enforce existing firearms regulations to prevent the proliferation of illegal firearms and reduce gun-related violence.
Honorable members, the question proposed to the Youth Parliament of the Parish of St. Andrew, Grenada is, be it resolved that this Honorable House reaffirms the rights of individuals in Grenada to bear arms within the parameters established by law. Be it further resolved that the government, in collaboration with relevant stakeholders, strengthen and enforce existing firearms regulations to prevent the proliferation of illegal firearms and reduce gun-related violence. Honorable Prime Minister.
Good day to this Honorable House. Madam Speaker, Amnesty.org stated, and please permit me to quote, thank you, gun violence is a daily scourge that threatens your most fundamental right, your right to life, end quote. And this subject is very dear to my heart, Madam Speaker, because my cousin died from gun violence, and at close range too. So I know how it feels. I know how it feels, Madam Speaker. I've been there. Madam Speaker, gun violence has crossed the borders, entered our shores, and infiltrated our society. It is equal to the plagues that occurred during Moses and Pharaoh. It is just sickening. And Madam Speaker, though gun violence hits home to me, I am sure that everyone in this Honorable House has a story or knows someone who's affected. And some may say, Madam Speaker, that it has guns all over. Grenada wouldn't be the first, and it wouldn't be the last. But oh please, give me a break. Why do we always have to follow the masses? And as old people say, it's not even good things we follow in. And as such, Madam Speaker, we, the government, rise to speak on this crucial resolution which seeks to reaffirm the rights of individuals in Grenada, Carriacou, and PT Martinique to bear arms within the parameters established by law, while ensuring that public safety and security remain paramount. Madam Speaker, this resolution is not just about affirming rights. It's about striking a delicate balance between individual liberty and the collective security of our nation. It emphasizes the urgent need to strengthen and enforce our firearms regulations to prevent the proliferation of illegal firearms and reduce gun violence. These issues, Madam Speaker, undermine our community's safety and the well-being of our citizens. Addressing these threats, Madam Speaker, requires comprehensive measures and a unified collaborative effort to curb the illicit flow and misuse of firearms. And as the Minister of National Security, Madam Speaker, I am responsible for overarching security policies and coordination to protect my Grenadian people. Madam Speaker, to achieve such a feature, we propose a multifaceted strategy. It is imperative that we amend and strengthen the legal frameworks by harmonizing laws, enhancing existing regulations, having international and regional collaborations, strengthening borders, and dismantling trafficking networks. Madam Speaker, the issue of gun violence is such a topical issue, one that is at the heart of every Grenadian, that even the use of a prop is prohibited in this honorable house. And Madam Speaker, I walked with one today. I did. But because of respect for you and this honorable house, I've refrained from using it. But think about guns being in the wrong hands, Madam Speaker, of the criminals, the rapists, the murderers. But think of guns being in the right hands of a mother protecting her child, protecting herself from rape. The question may be asked, Madam Speaker, why is it important to balance individual rights? Well, why not? The opposition may state, Madam Speaker, that no one should be allowed to have guns, with probably the exception of the police officers. But Madam Speaker, human or individual rights are the very basic rights that are given to all individuals simply because we're human. ageuk.org states, and please permit me to quote, please permit me to quote, Madam Speaker. Thank you. It states that human rights embody key values in our society, inclusive of equality, end quote. Madam Speaker, in the Virginia constitutional draft in 1776, Thomas Jefferson stated, and please permit me to quote again, Madam Speaker, "No free man shall be debarred the use of arms," end quote. He also stated in a letter to James Madison in 1787 that his preference is dangerous freedom over peaceful slavery. Madam Speaker, this sentiment encapsulates that it is better to face the risk of uncertainties of freedom than to live under the control and oppression of others, even if it means a tranquil existence. It speaks to the value of individual autonomy, even if it comes with challenges and dangers and the balance between security and freedom in our society. Madam Speaker, data provided by the Criminal Records Office of the Royal Grenada Police Force shows an increase in guns within our country. The number of recovered guns in a 5-month period, January 2024 to May 2024, is 29. Whereas the highest recovered guns from 2019 to 2023 was 30. Madam Speaker, in just a few months, we have exceeded what we have recovered in a year. So, Madam Speaker, this is crucial. Madam Speaker, Scientific American stated, and please permit me to quote, "Thank you, that gun control saves lives, and enacting simple rules that make guns safer and harder to get can prevent killings," end quote. Madam Speaker, the opposition may say that our laws should be eradicated or we may need to implement a new act. But our laws, Madam Speaker, needs not to be eradicated, but it needs to be amended or strengthened. In other words, it just needs a little push, just a little nudge to get it where it needs to be. Because it is foundation, Madam Speaker, and you do not demolish good foundation, you build on it. After all, the most expensive component of a house is its roof and its foundation. The opposition may further state, Madam Speaker, that gun control legislation would likely lead to a black market. And if someone wants to own a gun, they will own a gun. But Madam Speaker, the purpose of enhancing our regulations is to close all these loopholes. Our existing firearms regulations, as outlined in the Firearms Act, Cap 105, provide a solid foundation for the controlling, possession, acquisition, and use of firearms. However, it is because of the nature of illegal arms trafficking and the ingenuity of those who seek to bypass our laws that it necessitates the continuous enhancement of our regulations. Therefore, Madam Speaker, our government proposes an amendment to the aforementioned by proposing stricter laws, harsher penalties, and heavy fines for gun trafficking to deter individuals and organizations from engaging in such activities. Madam Speaker, For example, Madam Speaker, CAP 105, page 14, number 24, states in a nutshell that anyone who owns a firearm or ammunition with the intention to hurt a person or to damage property is liable to conviction and indictment to imprisonment for 10 years. Madam Speaker, this will now be 30 years. You may ask, why so much? The answer is simple. We want to end gun proliferation. Data from the trace indicates that weak laws do not deter criminals. Therefore, Madam Speaker, we need to strengthen our efforts to apprehend these individuals and prevent guns from falling into the wrong hands. By strengthening and enforcing our firearms regulations, we are not only upholding the rule of law, but we're also protecting our communities from the scourge of gun-related violence. Madam Speaker, it is often said that it takes a village to raise a child. In our case, we need international and regional collaborations to combat illegal firearms and trafficking, as trafficking is a transnational issue. Therefore, we will partner with international and regional entities to share intelligence, strengthen border controls, and dismantle trafficking networks. We need all hands on deck. Whether it be leveraging existing frameworks to creating a unified regional approach to combating gun trafficking, as well as establishing bilateral agreements with countries that are major sources of transit points for illegal firearms, so that we can enhance cooperation in tracing and preventing gun smuggling. Madam Speaker, charity begins at home, and thus we will enhance our law enforcement capabilities. We will equip our law enforcement agencies with the necessary resources and training to effectively enforce firearms regulations and combat illegal trafficking. As Brookings Edu stated, Madam Speaker, permit me to quote, "Thank you. Stronger law enforcement is crucial in stopping gun crime," end quote. With that, Madam Speaker, please grant me 3 minutes.
You have to.
Thank you. With that being said, Madam Speaker, we must take decisive action. Would you like your most fundamental right, the right to life, being taken away from you and your family? My administration has spent hours with families who's lost a loved one to gun violence. Are we willing to risk the lives of more persons in society? Do we want that weight on our conscience? Do we really want a safer Grenada? Madam Speaker, the proliferation of illegal firearms is not merely a legal issue. It is a profound threat to the very fabric of our society. It endangers lives, fuels criminal activity, and instills fear within our communities. Honorable Speaker, distinguished colleagues, the safety and security of our citizens are paramount. This resolution calls upon all of us to work collaboratively with stakeholders, the law enforcement, civil society, international partners, and the public, so that we can create a safer Grenada. Together, we can stem the tide of illegal firearms, reduce gun violence, and ensure that the right to bear arms is exercised in a manner that does not compromise our collective security. I urge you to support this resolution, and let us reaffirm our commitment to safeguarding our nation and creating a secure environment for our Grenadian people. Thank you.
I would like to acknowledge our judges, Mrs. Anishel Thomas, Mrs. Asha Baptiste Thomas, and Mrs. Marieve Marist. I would also like to acknowledge that we now have the Minister of Youth and Sport in our midst, Mr. Senator Honorable Jonathan Ackridge. MP for St. Andrew Northeast, Princess Thomas from the government side.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to second the resolution brought before this honorable House by the Leader of Government Business. Madam Speaker, permission to sing in your house. Thank you. One phone call it take to make some boy wipe off out and drop down flat. Blap. This is a line in the song Stay So by international reggae artist Busy Signal. Back in 2017, Madam Speaker, when I heard this song, that line slid by without me even noticing it. But today, Madam Speaker, when this line plays, that line gives me chills. With the increase of guns and gun-related violence, Madam Speaker, it is troubling to comprehend the reality that it only takes one phone call. Madam Speaker, due to the proliferation of illegal firearms and gun-related violence, it is pertinent and important that we develop programs geared at educating and training persons in our schools across Grenada of the measures and actions to be taken in the event there's an active gun threat on a school's compound, educating persons in communities across Grenada of their rights to bear arms legally and the consequences and penalties of owning and using an illegal firearm, and educating our parents, business owners, and citizens, Madam Speaker, of the proper storage methods when it comes to these firearms. Firstly, Madam Speaker, educating and training persons in our schools of the measures and actions to be taken in the event there's an active gun threat on a school's compound is one way of ensuring the nation's children and their educators are kept safe. Madam Speaker, imagine sending your child to school and getting a phone call informing you that your child has been shot. What would be your reaction? What questions would you be asking yourself and the members of the institution? Then, only to find out that there are no measures in place in the event of such a matter. Madam Speaker, this is ridiculous. Are we going to wait for there to be an incident on a school's compound before we put measures in place? Research done by the United Nations Regional Center for Peace, Disarmament, and Development in Latin America and Caribbean shows that 66% of firearms incidents occurred in public schools, 15% occurred in private schools, and 19% inconclusive due to a lack of evidence. Madam Speaker, that study further states that these firearms appeared in school for the purpose of threatening, intimidating, and to steal. It further states, Madam Speaker, that children as young as 5 years old has been involved in these incidents. Madam Speaker, as a past teacher and the Minister of Education, this information is frightening. Madam Speaker, with the implementations of programs like active shooter drills and enhanced security measures, legislations and policies such as lockdowns and emergency response plan and coordination with local law enforcement will ensure and prepare our schools if there ever arise such an incident. Madam Speaker, countries such as Jamaica are already collaborating with ONLREC to strengthen measures to tackle the presence of firearms in schools today, Madam Speaker. And that leads me to my second point. It is important and essential that we educate people in our communities across Grenada of their rights to bear arms legally and the consequences and penalties of owning and using an illegal firearm. Madam Speaker, my colleagues on the other side may say, why do you want to tell them how to get a firearm legally? Isn't that still going to affect the proliferation of guns in Grenada and subsequently the amount of gun-related violence? Madam Speaker, I stand here to say that every Grenadian citizen has the right to bear arms under the Firearms Act. It is enshrined in various national and international frameworks. Madam Speaker, so what better way is there to help combat the issue that we are having. Madam Speaker, I believe that the information I have to provide here this evening is very important and will be beneficial for the entire House and everybody sitting here. So I beg, Madam Speaker, for an additional 3 minutes.
Honorable members, let me now remind you again that the first bell is only a warning bell, and you have 2 minutes remaining to complete your speech.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Sorry. Madam Speaker, what better way is there to combat the issue that we are having today than to educate our people? Information received from the Criminal Records Office attached to the Royal Grenada Police Post shows that in 2022, there were 15 firearms recovered. 2023, there were 30 firearms recovered. And as of May 2014, there has already been 29. Quite a spike, isn't it? Madam Speaker, another research by the Caribbean Firearms Study shows that in 2023, Grenada had 1,145 registered firearms and 1,091 registered firearms, Madam Speaker. But can we say for certain the amount of persons who are in possession of an illegal firearm today, Madam Speaker? Madam Speaker, our stance is, you have the right to bear arms. This is the process you need to take to do so legally. However, not because you own a firearm legally, it means that you can use it how you wish. Madam Speaker, there are laws and regulations that pertain to legally owning a firearm. There are repercussions based on circumstances, and penalties and sanctions based on the Firearms Act of Grenada. Madam Speaker, I beg for an additional 2 minutes.
You are granted 1 minute.
Thank you. Madam Speaker, my final point, we need to educate our parents, business owners, and constituents that storage of these firearms is key. Imagine being the legal owner of a firearm and your child gets a hold of it. Imagine a family member living in your home has an illegal firearm and your child finds it. God forbid something happens. According to the Criminal Records Office, it shows that in 2019 there were 0 deaths by firearms. However, in 2022, there were 2. 2023, 3. And as of May 14, 2024, there has already been 3. We cannot digest this information smoothly, Madam Speaker. Ensuring that we have the required storage for firearms is essential. A security box, such as a gun vault or a gun locker, just to name a few, can ensure that our little ones and family members do not gain access to firearms. Madam Speaker, as I conclude, thank you, Madam Speaker.
MP for St. David.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the opposition would like to register that we have serious concerns about the resolution that was presented in the House here today. But before we delve into the meat of the matter, Madam Speaker, we would like to applaud and support the government in acknowledging that there is an urgent need in addressing the proliferation of illegal firearms and firearms crimes related in our country, and making an effort in the spirit of addressing these serious crimes plaguing our country. Madam Speaker, the opposition is not against the issue of Madam Speaker, the opposition is not against addressing the issues highlighted in the preambles of the document, but rather what we have interpreted to be a passive method chosen in the name of addressing these serious crimes plaguing our country at this time. This passive approach, as laid out in the document, raises a number of concerns. Madam Speaker, concerns such as the government failing to consider the practicality of enforcement. Madam Speaker, the issue at hand is not the regulation of legal firearms, but the criminal aspect that misuses them. Madam Speaker, we need actionable community-driven solutions to help empower our people. Madam Speaker, as a representative for St. David's, right, I would say, without proper resources, Madam Speaker, the resolution presented would only remain on paper. So let us take a page from the successful stories of our neighboring countries, and by extension, the wider world. Having said this, Madam Speaker, I suggest to you that the resolution presented in the House does not effect change if implemented today. What proof do I have of this bold statement, you may ask, Madam Speaker? The resolution document itself. And so, we'll examine the resolution document part by part, starting with preambles number 1, 2, and 3, with your permission to quote.
Permission granted.
Whereas the rights to bear arms is a fundamental aspect of individual liberty and self-defense enshrined in various national and international legal frameworks. And whereas the responsible exercise of the rights to bear arms requires a balanced approach. And whereas the government of Grenada recognizes the rights to bear arms, the rights of citizens to bear arms under the Firearms Act. End of quote. Madam Speaker, I submit that the layman terms version of these preambles as read before the House earlier today is essentially this. The rights to bear arms is important. The rights to bear arms as written in law is an important aspect of freedom and self-defense and requires a balanced approach as laid out under the Firearms Act. Solid start, Madam Speaker. But the question is, where do we really go from here? Madam Speaker, we move on to preambles number 4 and 5 with your permission to quote.
Permission granted.
And I quote, and whereas the proliferation of illegal firearms and gun-related violence poses significant challenges to public safety and community well-being. And whereas ensuring effective regulations and oversight of firearms is essential to prevent unauthorized access to firearms and reduce the risk of gun-related violence. End of quote. Madam Speaker, I would now like to give the definition of the words proliferation and oversight from the Cambridge Dictionary with your permission.
Permission granted.
And I quote, proliferation, the fact of something increasing in number or amount. And oversight, watchful and responsible care or regulatory supervision. And to simplify it, end of quote. And to simplify it, Madam Speaker, preambles number 4 and 5 essentially says, the large and sudden increase in illegal firearms and gun-related violence requires effective regulations and watchful, responsible care to prevent unauthorized access of firearms. Madam Speaker, this is where the concern begins to roll in. It is indeed facts that there has been a large and sudden increase in illegal firearms, which has proven by statistics collected from the Criminals Records Office of the Royal Grenada Police Force. Madam Speaker, in the year 2022, 15 firearms were collected, and by 2023, the numbers has essentially doubled. 30 firearms were collected, Madam Speaker, and shooting incidents in the year 2022, 14, and 23 as of the year 2023. Madam Speaker, it is now 2024, and the numbers seems to be climbing to greater heights. Madam Speaker, 29 illegal firearms were collected and 9 shooting incidents as of the 14th of May, 2024. That being said, Madam Speaker, the crisis that presents itself in preambles number 4, where there has been a proliferation of illegal firearms, far eclipses the ability of the recommended remedy in preambles number 5 to counteract it. And so, we see, Madam Speaker, that we are already standing on shaky foundation. But we press on to the enactment. Be it resolved that this Honorable House reaffirms the rights of individuals of Grenada to bear arms within the parameters established by law. Be it further resolved, Madam Speaker, that the government, in collaboration with relevant stakeholders, strengthen and enforce existing firearms and reduce gun-related violence. Madam Speaker, the issue is so pressing, it aches me. You notice that I'm still fumbling. But, Madam Speaker, I would wish to quote the definition of the word reaffirm. With your permission.
Permission granted.
The word reaffirm, Madam Speaker, came from the Collins Dictionary. And it says, and I quote, to state again clearly and firmly, end quote. Breaking it down again, Madam Speaker, the message is simple. This Honorable House shall state again that the people in Grenada has the rights to bear arms in the limits established by law, and the government, along with any affected group or party, strengthen and enforce existing firearms regulation. Madam Speaker, are we all gathered here simply to give a public service announcement? Madam Speaker, I'm almost certain that we have already passed the announcement phase of the sitting here today. Madam Speaker, what does this resolution change, implement, or resolve if passed today? You're telling me that we needed a whole resolution to remind the people they have a right to bear arms within the law? Or the government is planning to do something with the law? Madam Speaker, we could have published this information as a government update in the media, not waste the members' time in the House of Parliament. Madam Speaker, we came here in the hopes of voting on a resolution that will bring resolution. But all we received, Madam Speaker, was just bare information. Madam Speaker, as I leave here today, I would like for us to ask ourselves, are we really addressing the root cause of the problem? Or are we merely just treating the symptoms? Thank you.
MP for St. Andrew Southwest.
With my speech?
Permission granted.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Today we are gathered here today to discuss a topic of current national discourse. Guns. Now I know what you're all thinking. Grenada is in the Wild West, and to my knowledge, we don't have anyone with the name or the skills of Chuck Norris. But Madam Speaker, in all seriousness, we, the government, view the responsible regulation of firearms as no laughing matter. And as a Minister for Youth and Sports, I, Madam Speaker, am particularly invested in how this resolution will impact our youth and, by extension, our cultural fabric. Madam Speaker, we, the government, believe that the responsible regulation of firearms in Grenada is crucial for maintaining public safety and security, fostering a culture of responsible gun ownership, and safeguarding our youth and communities from gun-related violence and incidents. Madam Speaker, honorable members on the other side, audience, I urge you to pay attention, because each statistic that we state here today, Madam Speaker, it's not just a number, it's more than that. It's a story, a family, Madam Speaker, it is a life. Now, Madam Speaker, I think we can all agree that effective firearms regulations is crucial for maintaining public safety and security and reducing gun-related violence. Let's face it, when it comes to guns, it's not just about having a license to kill somebody. It's about ensuring that the right individuals in the head have access to these deadly weapons. Madam Speaker, according to a study done by the Small Arms Survey in partnership with the CARICOM Implementation Agency for Crime and Security, or impacts, and I quote, countries with stringent firearm regulations tend to have lower rates of gun-related deaths and injuries, end quote. It's no secret that Grenada, like our Caribbean neighbors, has recently seen a significant strike and impact of gun-related violence and illegal firearms. And that's why we, the government, are here today, Madam Speaker, and we believe that by strengthening our firearms regulation, as stated by our Prime Minister, through activities like licensing requirements, background checks, and safe storage provisions, we can significantly, Madam Speaker, reduce the risk of unauthorized access. Madam Speaker, we believe that effective regulation ensures that these guns end up in the hands of the right individuals. This is more than just putting more paperwork on someone's desk, Madam Speaker, this is beyond bureaucracy. It is about ensuring that our communities are safer. Madam Speaker, I'd like to ask you a question. Do you believe that promoting responsible gun ownership is essential for balancing individual rights with collective safety? Let me paraphrase that. Madam Speaker, do you believe that if we teach them how to shoot, who to shoot, and when to shoot, that they're less likely to harm themselves and others? Now, Madam Speaker, the honorable members on the other side might be thinking, what's the purpose of that? Why? Aren't we responsible enough? To that, I would say that even superheroes like myself need a bit of training before we can go and save the day. Madam Speaker, according to research from harvardpublichealth.org, Madam Speaker, and I quote, responsible gun ownership programs, including education and training, have been successful in various countries, including the OECS, in reducing accidental discharges and misuse of firearms, end quote. Madam Speaker, we believe that encouraging responsible gun ownership through education and training would ensure that individuals understand the legal, ethical, and safety provisions of using and owning a firearm. Think of it like a driver's license, but with much higher stakes. And Madam Speaker, I think we all know of a story or an individual who thought that texting and driving was a good idea. Look what happened. Madam Speaker, hence we, the government, are here today to prevent similar lapses of judgment, but with firearms. And Madam Speaker, hence the government's role, it's pivotal here. Madam Speaker, through our cultural and community initiatives, we can greatly enhance these educational efforts. And Madam Speaker, our Minister for Community and Social Development would elaborate on that. Madam Speaker, we, the government, come here today firm in our belief that protecting our youth and communities from gun-related violence is a top priority. And Madam Speaker, this would require robust measures to prevent and combat the proliferation of illegal firearms. Ladies and gentlemen, Madam Speaker, honorable members, the youth are our future. We are our future. We cannot have us or them as our target practice. And Madam Speaker, this is supported by research conducted by UNICEF, which is compiled in a 2022 report titled, and I quote, Hidden Scars, How Violence Harms the Mental Health of Children, end quote. And Madam Speaker, according to their findings, and I quote again, children exposed to gun violence may suffer from a range of psychological issues, including severe anxiety, depression, and many more, end quote. Madam Speaker, hence we believe that implementing and enforcing these regulations would combat illegal firearms trafficking alongside youth engagement opportunities, programs, and community initiatives. Madam Speaker, in conclusion, the responsible regulation of firearms, it's more than just a moral imperative. It's more than just a legal one too. And Madam Speaker, we believe that the responsible regulation of firearms ensures public safety and security, reduces, Madam Speaker, gun violence, and allows us to protect our youth and communities from gun-related violence. Let us move forward with this resolution for the sake of our nation, our communities, and our ancestors who jumped off the boats, Madam Speaker, and for our future generations. Thank you.
MP for St. Patrick East.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I must say, Madam Speaker, that the Prime Minister and Minister for Youth has been an inspiration for me today. Madam Speaker, I have serious concerns about the resolution before the House today. And those concerns revolve around the firearms regulations found in the Firearms Act as referenced in the resolution document. Madam Speaker, if you peruse the document from preamble to enactment, you would find that apart from the general illegitimacy of the document to qualify as a worthwhile resolution, as pointed out by my opposition leader, there is a heavy emphasis on the laws in regards to firearm regulations, putting it on a pedestal as the ultimate cure for our current firearm predicament. And while that may sound good on paper, Madam Speaker, we must remember that before, during, and after our spike in firearm-related offenses, that our Firearms Act and all its regulations were right here with us, Madam Speaker. So I submit to you, Madam Speaker, that the parameters set out in the Firearms Act on the right to bear arms would only regulate citizens who are already likely to comply with the law. And as obvious as this reality may seem to the average person, Madam Speaker, based on the resolution presented before the House, we can reasonably assume that it was not as clear to the members on the other side. So I'm more than willing to take up the role of educator today, Madam Speaker. I would use examples based on research and statistics, both locally and internationally, in an attempt to make it even more clear. Let's begin with an international example. According to a report done by the US Department of Justice and published on the 22nd of June 2023, it states that more than 600,000 people are released from prison each year in the United States. But studies show that about 2/3 are likely to return to prison within 3 years. In similar fashion, Madam Speaker, we had the fortunate opportunity to interview officers from the Criminal Records Office of the Royal Grenada Police Force. And from it, we learned that most repeat offenders tend to have a record showing a pattern of repeating the same type of offenses and are generally regular customers to the office. To go even further, Madam Speaker, let's look at our own Firearms Act, which existed since 1968 and continuously amended throughout the years up to as recent as 2024. Madam Speaker, Part 2, Number 4 of the Act deals with the restriction of importation, exportation, and transshipment of firearms and ammunition. And Part 3, Number 10 of the Act deals with restrictions upon acquisition and disposal of firearms and ammunition. Madam Speaker, both carries penalties of up to 5 years imprisonment. But despite this, Madam Speaker, statistics collected from the Criminal Records Office of the Royal Grenada Police Force on the 15th of May 2024 show that a number of illegal firearms and crimes involving firearms increased by approximately 100% from 2022 to 2023, with a continued pattern in 2024. Madam Speaker, all these examples show a clear pattern of complete disregard for laws and regulation of laws by the lawless. But apparently, the obvious response based on the resolution is to strengthen and enforce existing firearms regulations. This would definitely bring these lawless individuals under discipline, right? Madam Speaker, according to a stat analysis report from the FBI Uniform Crime Reporting Program on the limitations of law in preventing crime published on July 4, 2023, it was shown that while laws can act as a deterrent to some extent, they are not a foolproof solution to preventing crime. There are limitations to consider. Not all individuals are rational decision makers and may not be deterred by threats of punishment, and socioeconomic factors such as poverty and inequality can drive individuals to engage in criminal behaviors regardless of potential consequences. Madam Speaker, there is a reason we refer to those with a tendency to continuously commit crimes as lawless. That being the case, the question must be asked: who is this resolution for, if not for the lawless? Could it be law-abiding citizens? Absolutely not, Madam Speaker. Take a look at the enactment, Madam Speaker. On one hand, we are referring to the rights of individuals to bear arms within the parameters of the law. And then on the very next hand, we are looking to, quote unquote, strengthen and enforce the said firearms regulations. Madam Speaker, this would essentially equate to a more tedious and burdensome process for law-abiding citizens, opening them up to the temptation, as the Prime Minister said, of the black market for easier access to firearms. And the proliferation of illegal firearms and gun-related crimes continues. This can be seen as nothing short as, this can be seen as permission for 2 extra minutes to continue my speech, Madam Speaker.
You have 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I reiterate, this can be seen as nothing short of resolution suicide, Madam Speaker. And the weapon of choice, the firearms regulation. How ironic. Madam Speaker, the concerned and yet enlightened look on the faces of the members on the other side suggests that they too have finally come to the realization that the parameters set out in the Firearms Act on the right to bear arms would only regulate citizens who are already likely to comply with the law. My work here is done. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
MP for St. Andrew Northwest.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and good evening to you and to the members of this honorable House. In Grenada's lush, serene embrace, let peace replace the fear we face. Guns lay down, hearts unite, end the violence, heal the night. Madam Speaker, I stand in agreement with the rights of individuals in Grenada to bear arms within the perimeters established by law. However, Madam Speaker, we, the government, recognize the rise in gun violence and the illegal possessions of firearms and ammunition, and we must strengthen and enforce our measures to ensure peace in our nation. Hence, the importance of having community-based violence intervention programs, community advocacy groups, and community trauma support groups. Madam Speaker, as Minister of Social and Community Development, I am deeply concerned about the negative impact the recent gun-related incidents has on communities throughout the state of Grenada. Therefore, Madam Speaker, I find it necessary to implement violence intervention programs. Recently, Madam Speaker, I conducted a survey in my constituency of St. Andrews Northwest just to gather my community members' thoughts on gun violence and firearms. Madam Speaker, one of the questions asked was, what do you think are the primary causes of gun violence? Madam Speaker, 45% of the respondents indicated drug-related issues are the primary causes, while 30% cited the easy access to guns. Additionally, Madam Speaker, many participants expressed their concerns about the lack of effective gun control measures and the need for more community-based interventions. In response, Madam Speaker, we conducted research and took inspiration from a successful program in the United States. Madam Speaker, published by AmericanProgress.org on June 15, 2022, the program CBI programs which focus on reducing homicides and shootings. And Madam Speaker, it had an 80% success rate. When, Madam Speaker, we asked ourselves, if a program like this had such an impact on the United States, knowing their track records with shootings and firearms, Madam Speaker, just imagine what it can do for our little Grenada. So, Madam Speaker, my ministry came up with a program called the Purpose Program. This program aims to provide support and resources through counseling, mentorship, education on responsible gun ownership, conflict resolution, and economic opportunities. Madam Speaker, this program can help mitigate gun-related issues before it even starts, Madam Speaker. And as we Grenadians like to say, we have to do something before something does us. Furthermore, Madam Speaker, we plan to create community advocacy groups to promote public awareness campaigns against violence, Madam Speaker, including gun violence. Madam Speaker, with initiatives like art murals to raise awareness, collaboration with local musicians to spread anti-violence messages, and social media campaigns and challenges to engage our youths and create a culture against gun violence, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker, I stand on a point of order.
What is the point of order?
The contents of speeches must be relevant to the question proposed to the House at this time. This introduction of programs that the government intends to implement was not proposed. Therefore, in order to give our side a fair chance to comment on it, it should have been a part of your resolution.
MP for St. Andrew Northwest.
Continue. Madam Speaker, I believe what the opposition is stating is correct, but I believe it's very important to implement these programs to strengthen our measures, Madam Speaker. So I will continue, Madam Speaker. Additionally, Madam Speaker, we are not just concerned about stopping and preventing gun violence, but we are also concerned about the negative impact it has on individuals, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, we will be working closely with the Ministry of Mental Health and Wellness to introduce community trauma support groups for individuals and families and victims who were greatly affected by these gun-related incidents, Madam Speaker. And I will give my dear colleague, the Minister of Mental Health, to further expound on what the groups entails, Madam Speaker. In conclusion, Madam Speaker, yes, I am for the rights of individuals to bear arms in Grenada. But however, Madam Speaker, there are various challenges our community faces due to gun-related incidents. But through the Purpose Program, advocacy efforts, and in collaboration with the Ministry of Finance to introduce trauma support groups, we are working together to make our community safer. As I end, Madam Speaker, I end with these words that resonate with us all. In the island's gentle sway, together we will find a way to live in harmony and grace, and let's keep Grenada a peaceful place. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Are there any other members wishing to contribute to this debate? MP for the Tongue of St. George.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests, honorable members of the House, and the dynamic youth of Grenada. I come before you today with a heart full of passion and great enthusiasm. You know, they say in Grenada that we are so friendly that even our mosquitoes think they are part of our family. But just as we don't let mosquitoes invite themselves to our dinner table, we shouldn't let firearms become an uninvited guest in our homes. Today, I stand before you not just representing the tongue of St. George, but also as a concerned citizen, a neighbor, and a voice for our future. We are now at a crossroad where the choices we make will echo through the halls of time and resonate in the lives of our young ones. Here, I will state why Grenada should prioritize responsible gun ownership through regulations, education, and international cooperation, having a future where safety, unity, and progress prevail over fear, and how it decreases violence. We're here to talk about guns. Yes, guns, those metal contraceptions that can both protect our bananas and other crops from thieving monkeys and, unfortunately, cause more trouble than a mosquito on a dark, rainy night. You see, our beautiful island, known for its laughter and liming, has seen a rise in gun-related shenanigans. The truth is, illegal firearms are spreading faster than gossip in the markets, and it's causing a ruckus, forming our peaceful paradise into a place where some are too scared to even take a walk in the moonlight breeze. But let's not get too disheartened. After all, we're Grenadians. We are resilient and dedicated, and we sometimes face our problems with a smile. Whereas the right to bear arms is a cornerstone of individual freedom, a right that many have fought for, a right enshrined in the legal tapestries of nations far and wide, it is a right that speaks to the core of self-defense, to the primal instinct to protect oneself and one's family. But we must strike a balance, a harmony that upholds public safety, farms responsible gun ownership, prevents the misuse of firearms for criminal ends. We stand here today not in isolation, but as part of a global village. Our neighboring countries, with their tapestries of triumphs and tribulations, serve as living lessons. Esteemed members, according to a study done by sociology students at the Forum University, an article was published on May 23, 2024. Here, they set an example of one of the high-running countries that have effective gun control laws. The country they reported on is Australia, a nation that once faced a tide of gun violence. In response, they implemented a massive program destroying over 600,000 firearms. The results, a dramatic reduction in gun deaths, with firearm suicides plummeting from 2.2 to 0.8 per 100,000 people, and firearm homicides falling from 0.37 to 0.15 per 100,000 people. This is not just a success story. It's a testament to the power of decisive action, an action that left a positive impact on an entire country. The Caribbean region as a whole grapples with the specter of gun violence, with firearms used in over 70% of murders. The economic impact is staggering, with direct medical costs and productivity losses due to firearm-related violence amounting to millions of dollars annually in countries. This is not just a public safety issue. It's an economic crisis that diverts precious resources from education and social programs that can be beneficial to its country and its people. So what can we learn from these narratives? that the path to responsible gun ownership is paved with the stones of regulations, education, and international cooperation. It's a path that demands that we learn from both the successes and failures of those who tread it before us. In Grenada, we have the opportunity to craft a narrative of success, to implement policies that reflect the best practices of our neighbors, ensuring that the right to bear arms is exercised with the utmost responsibility and respect for human lives. Madam Speaker, honorable members, esteemed colleagues, and the future shapers of this nation, imagine a Grenada where the only shots we hear are from our athletes on the track, where the only barrels we see are filled with spices, and the only triggers we pull are our cameras, capturing the beautiful picture of Grandin's Beach. Our laws must be as wise as an old fisherman and as strong as an aged rum punch. They must guide us like the North Star, leading ships safely to shore. Some say reaffirming our right to bear arms now is like throwing a carnival fete in the middle of a hurricane. They argue that the Firearms Act is like a fishing net with holes so big even the fish are having a laugh. But I say, let's mend that net. Let's patch up the holes with threads of wisdom, knots of courage, and a whole lot of common sense. We need solutions that are as creative as our mass bands, as bold as our steel pan rhythms, and as effective as our grandmother's medicine bush. As the sun sets on our beautiful shores, casting a golden glow over the nutmeg tree, we are reminded of the simple pleasures that make Grenada the spice of the Caribbean. Yet, there is a shadow that threatens to darken our paradise, the motion of unrestricted firearms. Madam Speaker, can you envision a Grenada where the only sparks are flying from the welders who are welding their machine, or breadfruit roasted on firewood, or from steel pans playing on a festive night, not from the muzzle of a gun? Let's create a Grenada where the only thing we aim at are our goals and our dreams and our aspiration as we aspire towards a better land, not sparks from any firearm. That's why I stand against this motion for a Grenada where the only rounds we know are the rounds of applauses. In conclusion, let's craft a future as bright as the feathers on a Moko Jumbi's costume, as hopeful as a child's face on Christmas morning. We have seen, Madam Speaker, thank you. May you permit me 2 more minutes, please?
You have 1 minute.
Thank you. We have seen the successes that bloom from responsible regulation, and we have mourned the tragedies that arise from negligence. So let us not turn a blind eye to the wisdom of experience. Let us embrace a future where our children can play under the shade of the plum and mango trees, free from the shadow of fear. For Grenada, a land of spice where everything is nice, let us season our approach to gun ownership with prudence and foresight. Let us be the example, the beacon that guides not just our nation, but also inspire our neighbors towards a safer, more harmonious Caribbean. Let us not be the chapter that fails to learn. Let us not repeat the mistakes written in the annals of a wider world. Let us be the authors of a new narrative, one where the pen is mightier than the gun. To the youth of Grenada, I say this: your voice matters, your dreams matter, your lives matter. We are Grenadians, and we are strong, not because... I thank you.
I would like to acknowledge the presence of Dr. Tessa Sincere and Ms. Kenya Alexander, who is their St. Andrew's Carnival Queen 2024 representative. MP for Pitimatnik.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I must say this honorable house is on fire. Such wonderful speeches. I'm not even going to get into that. Madam Speaker, however, I am disheartened that the members on the other side would just stand here and be against this motion. Madam Speaker, allow me to tell you a story. This is a story about a little boy that went through a traumatic event, Madam Speaker. It happened in a small village in Maran in 2007 on December 25th.
Madam Speaker, that's Christmas Day. Madam Speaker, he woke up happy, overwhelmed with joy that his family was also happy. But Madam Speaker, it was around 5:30 that he got a call stating that his father was dead. Madam Speaker, the person said he was shot at his home. Madam Speaker, this is my story. This is my experience with gun violence, growing up with auto violence. Madam Speaker, you understand know why I am disheartened? That I have every right to stand here and be against this motion. To even say, let's ban guns outright. But I cannot be selfish, Madam Speaker. I have to think about the people of Grenada. This is my responsibility. Madam Speaker, it's evident that gun violence is a problem. So, what are we doing? And I stand here to assure you that I am confident in my team that we will solve this. Madam Speaker, as the Minister of Mobilization, Implementation, and Transformation, it is my responsibility to push meaningful and practical changes. I guess to get things done, right? Well, Madam Speaker, I propose enhancing the gun ranges. This will help educate gun owners in firearms ethics and safety, and also to introduce annual paintball competition, a fun way in building community. Madam Speaker, my third point is to implement a web-based solution for counseling. And the members on my team already mentioned that, and they will further expound on, how mental problems affect our people of Grenada. But first things first, I love my country, Grenada, but more importantly, I love the people of Grenada. True, Madam Speaker, through God, all things are possible. Madam Speaker, you may beg the question, why a gun range? And the honorable members on the other side might be confused. But as the new popular saying these days goes, Madam Speaker, let me cook. The firing range, gun range, shooting range, range. That's a lot of terms for one place. What is that? It's an environment where you go to learn how to shoot, but not only that, but you learn gun ethics. Madam Speaker, the function of this is to basically help Grenadians learn how to shoot, but like I said, they need to know the ethics. The members on the other side also mentioned similar. But, Madam Speaker, how are we going to do this in the current state with the gun range current state? And that's why I'm here to say I plan to fix it. I plan to make it better for everybody in Grenada to have access and to learn about the safeties of guns. Madam Speaker, sport bill camaraderie. And that's why I decided, you know what, everyone has such little fun when it comes to things. And I want to implement fun. I want to bring fun back to our country. We are known for sports. We are known for creativity. That's why I want to implement paintball competition, Madam Speaker. Team efforts, sports build, camaraderie, like I said, and such an implementation will help Grenada come closer. But, Madam Speaker, I want to make this more appealing. So it's a competition. Let's have prizes. Let's incentivize the people to want to come. But, Madam Speaker, I move on to my third point because time is going. Care. I care. The members of the government care. That's why I said that I will implement a web solution where the citizens of Grenada can have access to counseling, where the councils of Grenada could easily reach the people that need help. And that's why I think this is important. And I don't think the members on the other side should disagree, right? Oh, sorry, Madam Speaker, through you. I don't think the members on the other side will disagree. But, Madam Speaker, in closing, I implore all of us to act decisively in addressing gun violence in Grenada. My personal narrative underscores the urgency of our mission. Let us rally behind the practical measures, Madam Speaker, from enhancing gun ranges to promoting community building incentives like paintball competitions. Additionally, prioritizing mental health support through accessible counseling services is paramount. Together, let us forge a safer, a more united Grenada, guided by compassion and innovation. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
MP for St. George South.
Good evening, Madam Speaker. If I was to describe an incident that took place in one of the honorable members' constituency, it would be the words of this song. Madam Speaker, permission to quote a verse from the song Man's Not Hot.
Permission granted.
The thing goes scrap. Pop, 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 pop. Pity bop, bop, boop. Poop, poop. Madam Speaker, gun violence here in our beloved Spice Isle, or should I say pure Grenada, is getting out of control. And the government, Madam Speaker, and I'll repeat it because reputation imprints the impression. The government in reply
MP for St. Andrew Northeast.
Madam Speaker, I stand on a point of order.
What is the point of order?
Madam Speaker, the MP on the other side is still quoting.
Madam Speaker.
Honorable members, let me now remind you, you may not read quotes without permission. You also have to end the quote after you have started.
Madam Speaker, my apologies. I end quote. Madam Speaker, gun violence here in our beloved country, or should I say pure Grenada, is getting out of control. And the government in reply bring forth a resolution in this honorable house that is not only time wasting, but as old folks would say, effortlessly useless. The resolution itself suggests that the government is not even open to trying new and innovative ways in addressing the proliferation of gun violence and illegal firearms. Madam Speaker, the government is not an idealistic government. They lack innovation. Madam Speaker, members on the other side, members on this side, all of us, including stakeholders, need to look at the issue, sorry, forgive me, Madam Speaker. I'm so passionate about that the word's not even coming, slipping. Madam Speaker, all of us, including stakeholders, need to look at the issues and the causes of gun violence. Madam Speaker, talking about innovation, let's look at Japan, for example. The Japanese government website stated that at least 10 people die of gun-related violence per year. 10 people. Madam Speaker, can you imagine a country with approximately 125.1 million people? 10 people dying? Comparing to Grenada with approximately 100,000? A review was made by the United States Office of the Justice of Peace, Madam Speaker. Permission to read. And I read, other than the police and the military, no one in Japan may purchase a handgun or a rifle. Hunters and target shooters may possess shotguns and air guns under strictly circumscribed conditions. A prospective gun owner must take an official safety course and then pass a test that covers maintenance and inspection of the gun, methods of loading and unloading, shooting from various positions, and target practice for stationary and moving objects. So comprehensive are the gun laws that even possession of a starter pistol is allowed only under careful prescribed conditions. Although it may seem to be harsh, but the Japanese crime rate is low. And I end reading. Madam Speaker, this is innovation. There are other countries who use methods, though questionable, yet, as my grandfather would say, resultful and innovative. I am not saying we have to usurp the rights of our citizens. All I'm saying, Madam Speaker, is that we should analyze our culture, look at the causes of the recent proliferation in gun violence, and come up with effective ways to deal with gun violence. Madam Speaker, this resolution is like a house being built on a weak foundation. And I will speak in Grenadian dialect to get the message across. Make I tell them to scrap this thing from top to bottom, because this thing now go work. Madam Speaker, the firearm resolution, our honorable members on the other side said that they would strengthen and enforce has been around since 1986, as stated by my colleague. That fact, the fact that illegal gun and gun-related violence has been proliferated, speaks loudly that the regulation has not been working as it should. Assistant Commissioner of Police Van Cowen at the time said, permission to quote, Madam Speaker, that since the start, the uptick in violent crime is mainly among young people, and gun violence has shown its ugly head, forcing us to respond in ways we never had to before. Madam Speaker, let's look at the facts. Fact number one, the resolution has been around a long time now. Strengthening it is like putting an old engine in a new bus. It wouldn't get far until it starts breaking down. Fact number two, gun violence, as stated earlier on, is proliferated as never seen before since the time of our revolution. And all this is happening, Madam Speaker, all this is happening under the same firearm regulation the government wants to strengthen and enforce. Madam Speaker, I urge the government to be realistic, be idealistic, be innovative.
Honorable member, your time has elapsed.
Madam Speaker, I ask for 2 minutes.
You have 1 minute. Also, I would like to remind the members that you need to end your quote.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I urge the government to be realistic, be idealistic, be innovative. Let a good report be of us, not one where gun violence is heading the news and social media, but rather the news of our talented young athletes shining the light on the global stage, whether in running, jumping, or whatever sports they are keen in. Madam Speaker, as a potential father, oh, y'all want to know if I am a father? I'm just kidding, Madam Speaker. Forgive me for cracking a joke without your permission. But Madam Speaker, as a potential father, I have drafted a resolution, one that will completely eradicate gun violence. But time would not permit me to present it to this honorable House. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
I would like to remind the audience that you are to remain silent. MP for St. Mark.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I stand here today to join my government colleagues to address an issue that is very personal to me and profoundly distressing. The alarming increase in gun violence that is sweeping across our nation today. Madam Speaker, this is not just a headline or a statistic. It is a crisis that is affecting the very fabric of our communities and the health and well-being of our citizens, particularly, Madam Speaker, our youth and elderly. Madam Speaker, over the last few weeks, there has been several discussions on the issue of gun violence. Now, majority of these discussions are of the view that gun violence is just a social issue. However, Madam Speaker, I want to make this extremely clear that the issue of gun violence is not just a social issue. It is also a public health issue, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, gun violence have far-reaching implications for public health. Victims of gun violence suffer from severe physical injuries that require extensive medical care and treatment, Madam Speaker. These injuries can lead to long-term health implications, such as disabilities and chronic pain. Madam Speaker, you know, I don't think I need to say it. This will add immense pressure on our healthcare system that is already strained, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, but you know, the scars are not just physical. The psychological trauma inflicted by gun violence is equally devastating. Survivors and witnesses frequently experience post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, anxiety, and depression. The constant state of fear and stress in high-crime areas can lead to a range of stress-related issues, including hypertension and heart disease. Madam Speaker, the elderly who suffer from these health conditions are now in a position where their health is constantly at risk. And this is sad, and it is heartbreaking, as our elderly should never, Madam Speaker, be in a position like this. Madam Speaker, I recently had a conversation with an elderly woman who suffers from various health issues and who reside in a community where gun crimes frequently occur. And during that conversation, I asked her a question. I asked her, how is life for you living in this community? Permission to quote, Madam Speaker.
Permission granted.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And she replied, and I quote, "Son, I remembered back in the days when this community was one of the quietest communities in the whole country. I used to take my little walk to reach the standpipe and come back home. And I used to stop and talk to the children playing in the road. But by now, I can't walk no more. Because I'm afraid I get shot and because of my health. Nowadays, my pressure high. Because I always worrying and stressing myself. Because almost every day and every night, I hear gunshots." End of quote. Madam Speaker, this is a sad reality. Honorable members on the other side, this is a sad reality. This is a sad reality that some of our elderlies are facing in this country. It is sad, it is heartbreaking, and something must be done, Madam Speaker, to protect the health and well-being of our elderly citizens in this country. Furthermore, Madam Speaker, our youth are particularly vulnerable in this climate of escalating violence. They are not just the direct victims of violence, but the witnesses of acts of violence that leave indelible marks on their psyche. Exposure to violence disrupts the developmental processes, leading to behavioral problems, academic underachievement, and an increased likelihood of they themselves becoming involved in violence. Now, Madam Speaker, it is high time. It is high time we recognize that children who grow up in high crime areas are more likely to engage in crime themselves, thus perpetuating this vicious cycle. Madam Speaker, this issue is not just another item on my agenda. As I stated in the beginning, it is very personal to me. I speak on this matter with a heavy heart and a sense of urgency. I grew up in the same villages as our youths today where gun crimes frequently occurs. Now, I had a best friend in preschool, and he remained my closest companion throughout primary school. We laughed together, we studied together, we played together. And Madam Speaker even shared the same dream of becoming police officers together. He was extraordinarily intelligent and smart, Madam Speaker, excelling in his academics and inspiring everyone around him. However, today, I watch all those intelligence and talents being thrown out the door due to his subsequent involvement in gun violence. Madam Speaker, his mother, his grandmother, and his siblings are constantly worrying about what would happen to him if he continues on this path. Madam Speaker, as a government, we are not only here to highlight the severity of the situation or to make public service announcements. That is why my government colleagues propose ways and initiatives to combat this issue, Madam Speaker. That is why we are here. And so, Madam Speaker, with these approaches, we can make significant strides in combating this issue. However, the government cannot do this alone. We need a collective effort, help, and support from every community member, every community leader and organization to combat this menace. I urge parents to engage your children, educators to continue to inspire your students, and community members, especially my community members from St. Mark, to continue to look out for one another. By working together, we can create an environment where our youth can thrive without fear, where our communities can prosper in safety, and where every citizen can enjoy the high standard of health and well-being in Grenada. And so in closing, Madam Speaker, let us remember that the increase in gun violence is not just a social issue. It is also a public health crisis. The health and future of our nation depends on our ability to address this issue now and to address it comprehensively and compassionately. Let us commit ourselves to building a safer, healthier, and more peaceful Grenada for all to ensure Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique continues to move up and up and up. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
MP for St. George Southeast.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Shane Brown, Vaughn Cyrus, and Arthur Braveboy. Madam Speaker, these are the names of 3 persons who have lost their lives recently due to gun violence. Loved souls taken too soon, leaving behind parents, children, aunts, uncles, siblings to grieve that precious loss. May their souls rest in peace. Madam Speaker, these are precious lives lost to an unyielding instrument of destruction made from steel, designed to propel death with the mere pull of a trigger, destroying dreams and life in an instant. Madam Speaker, it is indeed a dangerous tool that we can all agree needs to be controlled. Madam Speaker, I must say that I am pleased that the government brought forward this resolution to this honorable House today, as it is an issue that is in dire need of being addressed. However, Madam Speaker, with the safety of the Grenadian people in the balance, myself and my colleagues on this side of the aisle cannot just sit here and agree with this resolution, as we not just think, but we know that much more than this resolution can be done. Done more than just enforcing and strengthening existing regulations. Madam Speaker, I must say I agree with the honorable members on the other side when they say that we need a much more comprehensive approach. I agree. We do need a more holistic approach, but I haven't been really hearing much holistic approach since I've been sitting here, but moving on. Madam Speaker, we need to attack this issue from all areas. Just let me to highlight 2, education and the community. Madam Speaker, when I say comprehensive is defined in the Merriam-Webster dictionary as, permit me to quote please, Madam Speaker.
Permission granted.
Cover completely or broadly, end quote. And Madam Speaker, when I say holistic is defined in the dictionary as, permission to quote.
Permission granted.
And I quote, dealing with or treating the whole of something or someone and not just part of it, end quote. Madam Speaker, we cannot just continue to take pain relievers for our headache. We need to delve deeper and tackle the root issue. Madam Speaker, is the government so against taking preventative approach? All I've been hearing is counteractive approaches, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the great Nelson Mandela once said, permission to quote, Madam Speaker.
Permission granted.
And I quote, education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world, end quote. This quote by Mandela is one of the most famous sayings on the value of education. And Madam Speaker, yes, I agree that the issue of gun violence is a no issue and it can develop if not treated immediately. And so I agree, let us attack it now. However, we cannot forget about the future. And as the Minister for Youth said, the youth is our future. The minds of our youth is our future. If we are really going to prevent gun violence developing, we need to work on starting with instilling higher values in the minds of our youth. Madam Speaker, now through countless research, I have found programs, but one I would like to highlight is the SEL program, Social Emotional Learning Programs. According to the Learning Institute, the Learning Policy Institute.org, directly quoting from this article, not my words, and I would love for the Minister of Health and the Minister of Education to listen keenly. And I quote, Madam Speaker, permission to quote again?
Permission granted.
And I quote, evidence from hundreds of studies indicates a consistent, reliable effect of SEL programs on students' social, emotional, behavioral, and academic outcomes at all grade levels across gender, ethnicity and race, income, and other demographic variables, end quote. This program can help prevent the increase in gun violence by addressing the root of such behavior, Madam Speaker. Teaching the skills such as empathy, conflict resolution, anger management, and decision-making would equip individuals with the tools to handle emotional and interpersonal relationships constructively, and reducing the likelihood for one to act or resort to violence, including gun violence, as a rebuttal, Madam Speaker. Now, education is one way of attacking this issue. However, it cannot act alone. It cannot reduce this issue alone. This is why other initiatives such as building community engagement through different programs can help with the reduction in gun violence. Madam Speaker, a community, as we could say, is a group of people or a body of people who live in the same place, usually sharing the same or common ethnic identity. And I will say this, I am sure all of us here could relate to today. If something happens in the community, it not just affects that group, it affects all of us. This is why it is important to collaborate with members of different communities to help fight against gun violence. It is called the Community Violence Intervention Program, CVI for short. The same program that wasn't provided in the resolution but was introduced here today by the Minister of Social Development, Madam Speaker. As easy as it was for the Minister to research and find this initiative, it is also easy to find the challenges that can be faced when implementing such a project. It seems to me that the Honourable Member just picked out what sounds good on the front page of the John Hopkins article, Madam Speaker.
MP for St. Andrew Southwest, sorry.
Madam Speaker, I stand on a point of order.
What is the point of order?
The Honourable Member is reading and not referring to her notes.
MP for St. George Southeast, I now remind you that you may not read your speech.
Thank you for the reminder, Madam Speaker. And I will continue. Isn't the government supposed to be transparent with the people of Grenada? Why bring across a program but not the issues that can be faced with it? Issues such as inadequate funding, a lack of public trust, and gun proliferation and firearms trafficking. I'm wondering if the paintball fight is supposed to help with public trust. Madam Speaker, I agree, there are some successful programs, that CAVI programs, but please take note of how I...
Honorable member, your time has elapsed.
Madam Speaker, I have some pertinent information that I really think that this House needs to, I need to drive into this House. I please beg for a measly 3 minutes.
You have 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I must say, it is hard to believe that this resolution was slept on and brought to this House today. It seems as though the honorable members on the other side had a change of heart, because things that wasn't mentioned in the resolution is now being discussed here today. Madam Speaker, the government expects for magic to be working. We're supposed to focus on one thing, and it's supposed to help with everything. Madam Speaker, I conclude to say, I strongly urge the government to please take note of the suggestions presented in this House today. Creating educational programs and community-based programs, along with telling persons, the Grenadian people, the challenges, will help the gun violence issue go a long way. Let us think of the people of Grenada. We will never get anywhere if we treat only one part of a disease. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Audience members, I again remind you that you should be silent throughout the sittings. MP for St. Patrick West.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, esteemed members of this honorable House, we live on an island nestled in the heart of the Caribbean Sea, famed not just for our spices, but for the gentle waves that caress our pristine white sand beaches. This is Grenada. Yet for all looming on the horizon, the shadow of gun violence that threatens to disrupt the idyllic fabric of our nation and expose us to a harsh reality, where the echoes of gunshots instill fear in the hearts and minds of our citizens. Madam Speaker, I stand today not just for words on paper, but for the very heartbeats of Grenada, its people. I stand in staunch support of the resolution, which reaffirms the rights of individuals to bear arms within the parameters established by law and to strengthen and enforce existing firearm regulations. Now, Madam Speaker, as of today, June 10th, 2024, Grenada remains ranked as one of the safest Caribbean islands in the region. The Royal Grenada Police Force boasts of an impressively low crime rate, with only 3 homicides by firearm in 2023 and 11 illegal firearm possession charges in 2021. Now, this is not by sheer coincidence, Madam Speaker, but because the laws and regulations we have in place are effective. And as the popular saying goes, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. However, according to a report done by the Small Arms Survey conducted by CARICOM, Grenada has witnessed a steady increase in the proliferation of illegal firearms in recent years, with 54 charges in 2023 and 16 as of May 2024. Now, in light of this alarming trend, Madam Speaker, the resolution before us takes on an added significance, and we must ensure that we immediately remedy the cracks in the foundation of our law enforcement. Therefore, Madam Speaker, as the resolution states to strengthen and enforce existing firearm regulations, I am proposing that we take it just a step further and implement some simple word changes within Section 4, subsection 1 of the Firearms Act, which states, and I quote, permission to quote, Madam Speaker.
Permission granted.
A person shall not import into or export from Grenada any firearm or ammunition except under and in accordance with the terms of a firearm import permit, end quotes. Madam Speaker, by my recommendation, said visitors should produce not just the necessary firearm import permits, but also a license authorizing him or her to be in possession of said firearm, in addition to a signed statement by a medical professional declaring him or her to be of sound mind to wield and enter Grenada with a firearm. Now, failure to do so will result in the sanctions outlined in subsection 2 of the Act, where persons will be found guilty of an offense and face up to 5 years imprisonment. Now, This might seem a bit excessive, Madam Speaker, but by ensuring swift and just consequences for those who engage in the use and possession of illegal firearms, we send a clear message in society that these actions will not be tolerated. Now, Madam Speaker, again, as the Minister for Tourism, I can't help but highlight how our economy thrives on visitors not dodging bullets. They come to Grenada for rum and relaxation, not to run and hide. By ensuring our guests can sunbathe without a sight of stray bullets means more than just peace of mind. It means peace in our wallets. Now, Madam Speaker, it's quite simple. Addressing the threat of gun violence is not only a moral imperative, but an economic one. And by confronting the challenges posed by illegal firearms head-on, we uphold Grenada's perception as one of the safest tourism destinations, further boosting our marketability and increasing the revenue gained annually through tourism activities. It's a win-win. Now, this requires a multifaceted approach, one that acknowledges the rights of citizens to bear arms for self-defense, while also understanding and recognizing the imperative of robust firearm regulations as in the interest of public safety, Madam Speaker. Now, this is where the collaboration with the regional and international partners come into play, such as the Caribbean Community and the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime. This will facilitate the exchange of best practices and resources to combat transnational organized crime and illicit arms trafficking. Now, Madam Speaker, casting our eyes to outside of our immediate region, to countries such as Norway, Japan, Singapore. Madam Speaker, according to research conducted by the Institute for Health Metrics and Evaluation, these countries top the globe as it relates to strict gun laws and low gun-related crimes. Now, while they do allow for private ownership, Madam Speaker, the process is highly regulated, and persons must undergo a series of tests, including a written exam, a shooting range test, and a mental health evaluation, in addition to undergoing thorough background checks. Now, Madam Speaker, meanwhile, in countries such as the United States and Mexico, it's basically a free-for-all, where the constitutional right to bear arms holds little to no restrictions as it relates to age, licensing, and the type of firearm that can be owned by a civilian. Madam Speaker, purchasing a gun in the US is as easy as going to the corner shop and asking for a bag of bread. It's ridiculous. Now, we might be a small island, but we ought to be mindful of the influences that we draw from these first world countries. If we were to copy anything, Madam Speaker, please let it be the strict gun laws and regulations of countries such as Japan, Singapore, and Norway. In closing, Madam Speaker, let us seize this opportunity to reaffirm our commitment to the principles of democracy, individual liberty, and public safety. Let's not aim for a future where our children practice lockdown drills more than they practice spelling bees. Let us tighten our laws, Madam Speaker, and be the island with the only shots. Madam Speaker, I beg for 1 minute to wrap up, please.
You have 1 minute.
Madam Speaker, let's tighten our laws and be the island where the only shots heard are from bamboo and the only barrels seen contain rum. Together, we can ensure that Grenada remains a paradise, and it's not just marketed as safe, but truly is safe. Thank you.
MP for St. George Northeast.
Man was gunned down. 3 men in South St. George were shot, and another man in the rural part of St. Andrew is now fighting for his life after obtaining 3 gunshot wounds. This is the grim reality we face. Illegal guns, gun-related violence, the spilling of Grenadian blood on our streets, an increase in a vicious cycle where young men are either in front or behind a gun. Madam Speaker, While the resolution was being read by our opposition leader, we heard the definition of proliferation, which is an increase a lot or suddenly in numbers. Indeed, the proliferation of gun violence is a dire issue, but it's only a side effect of larger unaddressed social issues such as poverty, our youths needing to access guns to protect themselves, and the desperate measures taken to climb the economic ladder. Madam Speaker, we are gathered here not just as policymakers, but guardians to our nation's future. Our goal is to save lives using every means necessary. Unfortunately, the members on the other side have not taken the necessary measures for protecting our beloved people. They speak of public safety and reducing gun violence. They have not addressed the root of the problem, the marginalized youths who are driven to commit crime. Studies from the Juvenile Justice Center of the United States, done in 2002, shows youths living in poverty that has a low academic performance and exposure to gun violence is most likely to carry a firearm. We need a comprehensive approach, community initiatives. Yes, we often hear that it takes a village to raise a child, but it seems like members on the other side have seemed to have forgotten how to use that wisdom. Members on the other side are claiming they are collaborating with stakeholders to enforce regulations against illegal firearms. How effective are those same collaborations against the root cause of gun violence? Madam Speaker, may I quote this African proverb? And I quote, "A child who's not embraced by the village would burn it down to feel its warmth," end quote. We need community intervention to prevent such devastation. A report from the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Safety in 2023 has shown a significant decrease in gun violence when communities are actively involved in addressing that problem. So therefore, we need more programs that uplift our youths, provide them with more social economic opportunities, and constructive ways to spend their time. By investing in our communities, we will reduce gun violence among our marginalized youth. Madam Speaker, moreover, the easy access of firearms needs to be addressed head-on. Interviews with youths in my constituency suggest that firearms is a symbol of protection and power due to their lack of trust in law enforcement. The Weapon Compass, the Caribbean Firearms Studies, published in April 2023, shows how easy access of illegal firearms are from North America to our other Caribbean countries have increased regardless of regulations placed. Madam Speaker, members on the other side are focusing on enforcing regulations without addressing the loopholes. Loopholes such as straw purposes and the private sales of illegal firearms needs to be taken a look at. We need a deeper understanding of social issues, and I urge members on the other side to avoid providing surface-level solutions over reactive measures that continue to erode the trust between law enforcement and our communities. Building that trust will allow us to better identify and address the sources of illegal firearms. Additionally, we must engage with our citizens, work together to create a safer Grenada, which also includes changing the perspective that the gun is not the only way to protect ourselves. You are a powerful man with or without a gun. Madam Speaker, another reason for firearm usage is drug trafficking. Studies from the United Nations on drugs and crimes, dated 2001, sees firearms and drugs as partners in transnational crime. Our youths are trying to survive this current economy of limited economic opportunities and inflation. Madam Speaker, they say that pressure busts pipe. Imagine the societal pressure for our youths to get money, the cars, and the brand name clothing. This isn't helping
Drug trafficking can seem like the easiest and fastest way to make up for those financial losses. Hence, we need to provide more social economic opportunities and employment for our youths, so they do not seek illegal means for economic survival. Madam Speaker, in conclusion, I urge members of this House to think deeply, act boldly. Let's not just say we're collaborating with stakeholders, but put them in the right path and do by implementing community initiatives, closing regulatory loopholes, and fostering a collaborative approach to social development. By doing so, we will not only address gun violence, but heal the underlying social issues that threatens our nation's future. Madam Speaker, the time to act is now. Let us protect our youths, safeguard our communities, and ensure a brighter, safer future for all Canadians. Thank you.
MP for Carriacou.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And good day to you and to the members of this honorable House. Has the increase in gun-related crimes not become alarming? It is an issue that is embedding itself into our once safe society. Madam Speaker, a motion was brought forth by this government today. Be it resolved that this honorable House reaffirms the rights of individuals to bear arms within the parameters established by law. This motion is critical in light of the challenges we currently face. The government and I support this motion because it recognizes the rights of citizens of Grenada to bear arms as stated under the Firearms Act. Today, I will discuss the merits of implementing this motion, the measures that will accompany it, and the necessity of educating our nation on this pressing issue. The recent gun amnesty in Grenada highlights the urgency for more comprehensive strategies to manage firearm ownership effectively. Despite the initiative, it is mentioned by the Royal Grenada Police Force that only one firearm has been surrendered, a Taurus PT 22.2 caliber auto pistol, indicating either a scarcity in firearms, which based on the number of illegal weapons seized, we know is not the case, or a reluctance amongst owners to part with them. This reluctance may stem from a perceived need for self-protection in response to inadequate law enforcement support. This amnesty, while a step in the right direction, reveals the need for more robust community engagement and trust-building measures to ensure the effectiveness of such initiatives. According to the Council of Foreign Relations, integrating technologies and improving legal frameworks can help address these gaps, making law enforcement more effective and reducing the illegal firearm circulation. Madam Speaker, for our citizens to bear legal arms, we must first put a halt to the number of illegal firearms being brought into this country. To effectively reduce firearms, Grenada will adapt integrated monitoring technologies such as coastal radars and advanced tracking systems. These have been successfully used in other regions to detect and intercept illegal arms shipment before they penetrate national borders. The success of such technologies in Central America, where they have significantly hindered illegal arms trafficking, provides a compelling model for Grenada. Moreover, international cooperation and alignment with global best practices can ensure that Grenada becomes a leader in regional proactive arms management. Strengthening these capabilities will address the root cause of gun violence. As with the growing number of illegal arms, the opposition has mentioned the drastic growth in the number of gun-related crimes. However, Madam Speaker, I believe it is not the ability to own or bear firearms that is the cause of such an increase in crime, but rather a lack of education within our society is the leading cause of this damning crime streak. The proposed educational initiatives aim to create a well-informed community around gun ownership and safety. This program will involve community workshops, which will provide practical training on firearm safety, legal responsibilities, and the ethical implications of handling firearms safely. By using interactive methods and real-life scenarios, participants can gain hand-on experience on handling firearms safely. School programs, which target the younger demographic. This program will educate students on the dangers associated with improper firearm use, promoting a culture of safety and responsibility from an early age, molding a society to be what it needs through our younger generations, and public awareness campaigns. Through media and public events, these campaigns will highlight the consequences of improper firearm use and the importance of following legal protocols. They will also provide information on how to legally acquire and store arms. The benefits of this initiative are manifold. Educated communities have lower rates of accidental and intentional gun-related incidents and are more equipped to make informed decisions on firearm use. Programs in regions with similar social dynamic have shown that when people understand the laws and the potential consequences of violating them, compliance increases and gun-related crimes decrease. In closing, Madam Speaker, this motion and the accompanying measures are not just about maintaining law and order, but about fostering a culture of responsibility and safety that align with our democratic values and respect for individual rights. By enhancing our strategies to control illegal firearms and investing in comprehensive educational programs, we can ensure that Grenada remains a safe and peaceful place to live. The commitment to public safety and responsible governance will uphold Grenada's reputation as a leader in effective community and law enforcement strategies within the Caribbean. Madam Speaker, this government aims to make Grenada a greater nation. So let us move forward together in support of this motion to create a safer future for all Grenadians. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
MP for St. George Northwest.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. In a world where numbers like 6, 7, 8, and 9 signifies danger in agreement with public intelligence, some may say, but what does this have to do with the resolution? Madam Speaker, let's recall the incident where Cayman 6 had to come in Grenada to perform, and many Grenadians was opposed it due to their affiliation with gangs. They feared it might lead to violence by reaffirming individuals to bear arms within the parameters established by law. We risk putting Grenada in a similar position, potentially leading to a scene of chaotic violence. Because gangs are the main reasons why people feel the need to acquire a gun. Firearms landing in the wrong hands poses a great threat to others and themselves. Missteps jeopardize our communities, leading to a global crisis. While some may blame the National Security Minister, we, the opposition, sees beyond and is offering a more effective and beneficial solution. Madam Speaker, in my contribution to this resolution before the House today, I would be focusing on the first enactment, which states, be it resolved that this Honorable House reaffirms the rights of individuals to bear arms within the parameters established by law. Madam Speaker, I strongly oppose this resolution put forth in this Honorable House today, as it's ludicrous and I don't see the potential benefits and how it could make a positive impact on our youths. Managing firearms poses a complex challenge, balancing individual rights and public safety. Adding to this complexity is the link between gun violence and higher suicide rates. Addressing these issues requires immediate and thorough actions. Madam Speaker, reaffirming the rights of individuals to bear arms in a time of substantial gun-related violence is a mistake. Madam Speaker, the other side may argue that allowing this resolution to pass may promote self-defense and liberty, but I suggest to the House today that the cons outweighs the pros. I will explain, Madam Speaker, and I will begin providing evidence backed by research. Permission to quote, Madam Speaker.
Permission granted.
More guns equals more crimes, according to Harvard, and I quote, more guns equals more crimes, end quote. Studies have shown a positive correlation between the prevalence of firearms in a community and the incidence of gun-related crimes, suggesting that this increased access to guns can contribute to higher rates of violent crime due to availability and misuse. Definition of a gun. According to Oxford Languages Dictionary, a gun is a weapon incorporating of metal tube from which bullets, shells, or other missiles are propelled by explosive forces. In agreement with the trace.org, with an estimated 4.6 million children globally living in homes with unlocked loaded firearms, leading to about 350,000 unintentional shootings each year, Madam Speaker. Additionally, between
Minister for St. Andrew South East.
Madam Speaker, I stand on a point of order.
What is the point of order?
The honourable member is reading his speech.
Thank you. MP for St. George Northwest. Honorable Minister, you are not allowed to read your speech, but you can refer to notes.
Okay.
You may continue your speech.
With an estimated 4.6 children living in homes globally living in homes with unlocked loaded firearms, causing about 350,000 unintentional shootings each year. Additionally, between 200,000 and 500,000 guns are stolen annually. Madam Speaker, do we really want our sweet little Grenada to reach that stage? I think not. Madam Speaker, my question to the government is that how will they go about balancing individual rights to bear arms with ensuring public safety and reducing gun violence? My second question is that what measures are in place to prevent firearms from reaching individuals who may pose as a threat to themselves and others? A recent study found that household gun ownership was the best predictor of youth suicide. For every 10% point increase in estimated household gun ownership, the suicide rate drastically increased between the ages of 14 to 19 by nearly 27%. Reducing access to lethal means such as firearms is critical in saving lives, according to firearm suicide. Madam Speaker, do we envision Grenada with its population of 100,025, 438 individuals following a similar trajectory? Madam Speaker, the evidence presented clearly demonstrates the strong correlation between household gun ownership and youth suicides. In Grenada, reaffirming individual rights to bear arms without stringent regulations could inadvertently exacerbate mental health issues and increase the likelihood of youth suicide. Therefore, implementing measures to reduce access to lethal means, such as firearms, would be a crucial step in safeguarding the lives of Grenadian youths. Madam Speaker, the statistics highlight the risk of widespread gun ownership and the difficulty in ensuring safe and responsible.
MP for P.T. Matnick.
Madam Speaker, I'm standing on a point of order.
What is the point of order?
The member on the other side is reading.
Thank you. MP for St. George Northwest, I again remind you that you are not allowed to read your speech, but you can refer to notes.
These statistics highlight the widespread of gun ownership and the difficulty in ensuring safe and responsible uses. So the last thing we need to be doing right now is encouraging citizens to acquire a firearm and encourage them to give up firearms altogether to bring back Grenada to a gunless paradise. While it's good to make sure gun owners are trained, store the guns safely, and are responsible, I think that we need to be focused on why would individuals feel the urge or the need to acquire a firearm in the first place. Let's work on making our communities safer by fixing the problems at hand that lead to violence, like helping people in tough situations and fixing problems at hand that lead to violence. As leaders, we should set a good example by treating each other with respect and finding peaceful solutions to problems that That way, we can protect not just our rights, but also our lives and the lives of those around us. In conclusion, Madam Speaker, behind every gun-related incident is a family facing tragedy. While we value the right to bear arms, our current approach is not keeping us safe. Let's prioritize community safety. I thank you.
MP for St. Andrews Southeast.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Good day to you, Madam Speaker, and to the members of this honorable House. Madam Speaker, a staggering reality confronts us on our beautiful island of Grenada. The proliferation of illegal firearms and the recent occurrences of gun-related violence reverberate, Madam Speaker, not only through our streets, but also through the very fabric of our communities, leaving behind a trail of psychological trauma and shattered lives. We stand, Madam Speaker, at a pivotal moment where the imperative to safeguard mental health and ensure community well-being intersects with the fundamental right to bear arms. As we grapple, Madam Speaker, with the complexities of this issue, it becomes increasingly clear that the responsible exercise of this right demands a balanced approach, one that acknowledges the profound impact of gun violence on mental health and the importance of effective regulations to prevent its proliferation. As the Minister for Mental Health, Madam Speaker, I rise to address the motion before this esteemed House with a deep sense of responsibility and commitment to the welfare of our citizens. Madam Speaker, I contend that strengthening firearm regulations, collaborating with religious leaders, and embracing community-based initiatives are paramount in safeguarding mental health and fostering a safer, more resilient Grenada. Madam Speaker, the psychological trauma inflicted by gun violence is a silent epidemic that affects victims, their families, and entire communities. Madam Speaker, research from the National Center for PTSD has shown that exposure to gun violence can lead to long-term mental health issues, including PTSD, anxiety, and depression, as my colleague mentioned earlier. How then can we address this? Madam Speaker, my ministry will be collaborating with the Ministry of Social Development to establish community support programs to address this trauma. Madam Speaker, we must and we will provide counseling and mental health services to those affected, ensuring that they receive the help they need to heal and rebuild their lives. By doing so, Madam Speaker, we not only support individual recovery, but also strengthen the social fabric of our communities. Another approach that we will take, Madam Speaker, is to collaborate with religious leaders throughout the island. Madam Speaker, religious leaders hold significant influence within our communities. By collaborating with them, we can promote mental health awareness and responsible gun ownership. Studies done by the World Health Organization have demonstrated that faith-based initiatives can effectively reduce violence and support mental health. Religious leaders, Madam Speaker, can leverage their reach to foster a community-wide commitment to reducing gun violence. Through sermons, workshops, and counseling services, they can encourage responsible behavior and provide support to those in need, thereby contributing to a safer and more cohesive society. Additionally, Madam Speaker, in collaboration once again with the Ministry of Social Development and local organizations, we will be promoting community-based mental health initiatives, which is crucial in addressing the root causes of gun violence. These local organizations and volunteers can play a vital role in offering support and monitoring individuals who may be at risk of harming themselves or others. Evidence from the American Psychological Association, Madam Speaker, suggests that community-based approaches can significantly reduce the incidence of violence and improve overall mental health. Madam Speaker, these initiatives create a network of care that proactively addresses mental health issues and prevents gun-related incidents. By involving local stakeholders, we can ensure that our efforts are tailored to the unique needs of our communities. In conclusion, Madam Speaker, the motion before us represents a balanced and necessary approach to addressing the complex issue of gun violence in Grenada. By strengthening firearms regulations, collaborating with religious leaders, and promoting community-based mental health initiatives, we can safeguard the mental health of our citizens and foster a more safer, more resilient nation. I urge this Honorable House, Madam Speaker, to support the motion and take decisive action to protect the well-being of our people. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
MP for St. George Southwest.
Thank you. Good evening to everyone in this house. Madam Speaker, do you feel safe in this country? Amid the upsurge of gun-related crimes here in Grenada, and persons having genuine concerns about their safety, and are looking to the government for answers, what was the government's response, Madam Speaker? Their answer is this: whereas the right to bear arms, or in other words, you owning a gun, is a fundamental aspect. When the word fundamental is used, it is used to describe something that is the key or basis for another thing. What is the other thing being addressed here? It is your individual liberty and self-defense. Individual liberty speaks to your freedom of movement, beliefs, expression. Self-defense speaks to your protection. The government's answer to the safety concerns of the people is this: you owning a gun is key to your freedom and protection. Why must I own a gun to feel safe in this country, Madam Speaker? Madam Speaker, the Honorable Prime Minister quoted something that she embodies with your permission, allow me to requote.
Permission granted.
Dangerous freedom, and I quote, dangerous freedom is better than peaceful slavery, end quote. Last I checked, there are no slaves here. But it is ironic that after the Honorable made such statement, one of her members on the other side said, Grenada isn't the Wild Wild West. I'm paraphrasing here. And they call for a peaceful nation with statements like these. We can acknowledge that we do have laws in this country that gives persons the right to bear arms. But it is not the key to their freedom or protection. In our responsible exercise of this right, we must ensure that our police force is equipped to deal with the crisis at hand. We cannot simply focus on the firearms regulation, but examine and remedy governing procedures at a port of entry. Madam Speaker, the Honorable Prime Minister asked to give her a break. Through you, Madam Speaker, I say no. Through you, Madam Speaker, I charge the government to take the recommendations provided by the members on this side of the floor, so that the Grenadians can be confident in the governing institutions of this country to keep them safe. Madam Speaker, Gunshots are ringing out like rain in our streets. Senseless killing is occurring in execution style. Yet, we have police officers patrolling our streets with just pepper sprays and butus. Let me correct myself, pepper sprays and batons. Madam Speaker, there's an old saying, don't bring knife to a gunfight. All police officers in these times should be required to patrol with a firearm so that they would be ready to defend immediately. Madam Speaker, the International Chiefs of Police, of which Grenada is a part of, recommends firearm trainings be held for police officers at least 3 times a year. In our Policing Act, we have that the Chief of Police may, from time to time, issue standing orders on the training of the post. Madam Speaker, there is no set standard for the regularity of retraining of police officers. This isn't something that should be left up to subjectivity. But instead of investing in our police force, the member on the other side for mobilization said this: he would upgrade the gun range, a privately owned entity. With whose money? Taxpayers' dollar? That is the question I have. Repetition impacts learning and stimulates good memory. Instead of reminding the average Grenadian that they have a right to bear arms under the law, let us reaffirm that our police officers are skilled and equipped to handle the crisis at hand because they undergo consistent mandated firearms training. But we can only do this if we implement change. National security is the central theme that this motion is supposed to address. Considering this, Madam Speaker, I hoped to hear more about enhancing border and port security. Grenada doesn't manufacture guns, yet they find their way into our communities and into the hands of persons not authorized to use them. Madam Speaker, these deadly weapons are being imported. We have to consider the potential risk of external parties aiding to the proliferation of gun-related violence in Grenada. If we do not heighten border protection and port security, Grenada can become the place to commit a hit and run. I urge the government to move with passion and aggression and not be so passive as my opposition leader said. With the advancement of technology, we can implement scanning equipment. We can invest in them at our ports. Gone are the days where a customs officer needs to be unpacking an entire barrel to know its contents. We can invest in sensory and satellite imagery technology so that we can see what is happening at our borders in real time. Madam Speaker, don't you find it interesting that a number of times weapons are confiscated by our police force? It's around areas close to our seashores. We need more eyes on the coastline, Madam Speaker. Our borders are the portals of entry. They are our first line of defense. A combination of technology, along with well-trained personnel, can contribute to effective detection of firearms at our ports of entry. Madam Speaker, I have said a great deal today, and there is so much more that can be said on the matter. But I conclude by saying this: individual liberty and self-defense is your constitutional right. You do not need a gun to acquire it. The first role model.
Honorable Member, your time has elapsed.
Madam Speaker, I only need 30 seconds to wrap up my speech.
Permission granted.
Thank you. The first role model of a child begins at home. It is their parents. If we tell the average Grenadian mom and dad to pick up a gun, what do you think the youths will do? When parliamentarians come into this honorable house, we must present our people with resolutions to the issues that plague them. I hope that the government would take what is presented by the opposition here today to solve the issues at hand. Thank you.
Are there any other members wishing to contribute to this debate? Honorable Prime Minister, I now invite you to end the debate.
Madam Speaker, through you, I would like to extend my gratitude to the members on the other side for their contributions. However, Madam Speaker, it appears that a member from the opposition may have jumped the gun today. Our esteemed Minister for Social Development has laid before this House numerous innovative programs. It seems, Madam Speaker, that these initiatives should now ease the restless minds of our colleagues across the aisle. As we are not merely amending laws, we are implementing essential programs. But it truly baffles me, Madam Speaker, the thought processes, or the lack thereof, exhibited by the opposition. If their reasoning is indicative of their broader strategic vision, well, it's no wonder why they find themselves in their current seats rather than governing. We are here discussing the vital task of strengthening firearms regulations to safeguard our citizens, and yet they seem to take this matter as lightly as casual conversation as a tea party. This is not fodder for newsletters, Madam Speaker. It demands serious debate in this honorable House. Furthermore, Madam Speaker, the member on the opposite side claimed their work here was done after delivering what they promised to be one local and one international statistic. Yet we heard two international figures. How, Madam Speaker, do American gun laws shape the streets of Grenada? We are not a mere reflection of our foreign lands. Madam Speaker, while I sat here enduring what can only be described as a monologue detached from our reality, I couldn't help but notice an honorable member on the opposite who seemed more interested in performing a head-raising exercise than engaging with the matter at hand. Their speech wandered through a maze of confusion, sprinkled with a generous dose of questionable data and methods. Indeed, Madam Speaker, while passion in debate is commendable, accuracy and clarity must not fall by the wayside. I do hope, for the sake of clarity and decorum, that members remember to utilize the Queen's English and properly close their quotes. Madam Speaker, the member on the opposite side was probably in a very deep slumber when I specifically stated that this resolution is not just about affirming rights, but it is about striking that delicate and necessary balance between individual liberty and the collective security of our nation. But I hope, Madam Speaker, that the honorary members on the other side does not apply for firearms. Sometimes we can only understand a situation when it hits home. But in closing, Madam Speaker, the concept of gun control is straightforward and critical. By restricting access to firearms for those most likely to misuse them, we aim not just to maintain order, but to protect the very fabric of our society. We stand united and resolute, committed to enhancing our firearm laws, bolstering regulations, and ensuring that our nation remains a safe haven, free from the shadows of misuse and violence. Thank you, Madam Speaker, for allowing me the opportunity to clarify the stark differences between meritoric and effective governance. I thank you.
Honorable members, the question is that the following resolution be agreed. Whereas the right to bear arms is a fundamental aspect of individual liberty and self-defense enshrined in various national and international legal frameworks, and whereas the responsible exercise of the right to bear arms requires a balanced approach, and whereas the government of Grenada recognizes the rights of citizens to bear arms under the Firearms Act, and whereas the proliferation of illegal firearms and gun-related violence possesses significant challenges to public safety and community well-being, and whereas ensuring effective regulations and oversight of firearms is essential to prevent unauthorized access to firearms and reduce the risk of gun-related violence, be it resolved that this honorable House reaffirms the rights of individuals in Grenada to bear arms within the parameters established by law. Be it further resolved that the government, in collaboration with relevant stakeholders, strengthen and enforce existing firearms regulations to prevent the proliferation of illegal firearms and reduce gun-related violence. As many as are in favor of that, the resolution be agreed, say aye. Those of the contrary opinion, say nay.
Nay.
I think the ayes have it. The resolution has been agreed. Minister for St. George Southwest.
Madam Speaker, I call for a division of the House.
Honorable members, we will now have a division of the House.
Division.
MP for St. John, what say?
Aye.
MP for St. Andrews Northeast, what say?
Aye.
MP for St. Andrews Southeast, what say?
Aye.
MP for St. Andrews Northwest, what say?
Aye.
MP for Pittimacnic, what say?
Aye.
MP for St. Mark, what say?
Aye.
MP for St. Patrick's West, what say?
Aye.
MP for Carriacou, what say?
Aye.
MP for St. Andrews Southeast, what say?
Aye.
MP for St. David's, what say?
Nay.
MP for St. Patrick's East, what say?
Nay.
MP for St. George Southwest, what say?
Nay.
MP for St. George's Southeast, what say?
Nay.
MP for St. George's Northeast, what say?
Nay.
MP for St. George South, what say?
Nay.
MP for St. George's Northwest, what say?
Nay.
MP for the Tongue of St. George, what say?
Nay.
The result of the division is 9 ayes, 8 nays, and 0 abstentions.
The resolution has been agreed. MP for St. Patrick East.
Madam Speaker, I call for an adjournment of the House.
Honorable members, the question proposed is that this Honorable House stands adjourned sine die. MP for St. Andrews Southeast.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise on behalf of members on both sides of this honorable House to extend our sincere gratitude for your exceptional leadership as the Speaker. We thank you, Madam Speaker, for providing us with the opportunity to engage today in meaningful discourse and for ensuring that all our voices were heard and respected. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honorable members, the question is that this honorable House stands adjourned sine die. As many as are of that opinion, say aye. Aye. Those of the contrary opinion, say no, nay. I think the ayes have it. The ayes do have it. The business of this Youth Parliament of the Parish of St. Andrew stands adjourned sine die.
Honorable Lennox Andrew, MP for St. Andrews Southwest, Senator the Honorable Jonathan Lacrette, the Minister for Youth and Sports, Senator the Honorable David Andrew, Minister for Education, Senator the Honorable Gloria Thomas, Minister for Social Development, Dr. Tessa Sincere, Lead Facilitator for the National Youth Parliament Program, Ms. Janella Edwards, Assistant Youth Coordinator in the Ministry of Youth, specially invited guests, principals, teachers, Ms. Kenya Alexander, 2024 Carnival Queen contestant for St. Andrew, community outreach assistants, ladies and gentlemen, all good afternoon. Now, before we proceed into the second part of the program, I would like you all to give our participants a lusty round of applause for their outstanding performances this afternoon. Job well done, ladies and gentlemen. It is my absolute pleasure to welcome all of you to this wonderful event celebrating the achievements and potential of our young people. I am Saran Mack, and I am honored to serve as your chairperson for this part of our program. Without further ado, Let us commence this ceremony with the warmth and enthusiasm it deserves. To officially start these proceedings, it is my great pleasure to invite Ms. Janella Edwards, our esteemed Assistant Youth Coordinator, to deliver the welcome remarks to us. Ms. Edwards.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mark, former Youth Parliamentary, ICT and the Creative Economy, Mr. David Andrew, Minister for Education, Dr. Tessa Sincere, invited guests, persons joining us on Mikey Live, good evening to everyone, and to you, our youth parliamentarians, our community leaders, and future parliamentarians of Grenada, good evening. Before I even welcome you, can we put our hands together again for our youth parliamentarians who spent weeks researching, weeks preparing, weeks ensuring that they represented themselves and their constituencies with confidence and distinction. Today's debate was insightful and engaging. The Division of Youth within the Ministry of Youth and Sports welcomes you to the first Youth Parliament sitting for 2024. Today, our youth parliamentarians add their views on the critical issue of gun violence in Grenada, an issue that is not only relevant, but one that affects all of us as Grenadians. The Youth Parliament program provides that platform for young people to speak up, to share their concerns, to put forward resolutions that can be considered by the policymakers. And our leaders, they are here. They do listen, and they listen attentively. They do ask for the notes and the recommendations after the sittings to ensure that your challenges and recommendations are considered in the decision-making process. I must mention that the Division of Youth has implemented several changes to the Youth Parliament program, which now includes a national youth election, where candidates will be selected from the parish-level youth parliament to participate in a national youth election in November of this year. Elected youth parliamentarians will become national youth parliamentarians and will be enrolled in the program for 2 years. During the 2 years, our youth parliamentarians will be engaged in national youth parliamentary debates at least 4 times per year. They will receive a stipend to help them prepare for these sittings. They will receive mentorship. They will be involved in continuous training and development. They will even have access to our community support grants to help further their community development initiatives. So let's put our hands together for the Ministry of Youth and Sports. So youth parliamentarians, future parliamentarians, we hope that these changes would provide a more meaningful experience for you as you prepare to lead and to represent the voices of young people across Grenada. Stay tuned for much more information. Remember to follow us on Facebook. It's the Ministry of Youth and Sports. We are also on Instagram, MOY473. So again, welcome. Thank you for coming. Congratulations to our youth parliamentarians, and the candidates who will be participating in the national youth election will be revealed soon. So welcome again.
Thank you, Ms. Edwards, for that heartwarming welcome and for setting such a positive tone to the proceedings this afternoon. Next, we are privileged to hear from a dedicated public servant who consistently advocates for youth involvement in the community and country by extension. I don't think I can count on my hand the amount of years she has dedicated and put into the National Youth Parliament program. Dr. Tessa Sincere, we welcome you to give some brief remarks.
Thank you very much, Ms. Mark. I am going to adopt an abbreviated protocol. Honorable Ministers of Government, Assistant Youth Coordinator, specially invited guest, representative for the St. Andrew in the National Carnival Queen Pageant. But more importantly, parliamentarians, good afternoon. Media, good afternoon. I know the Honorable House was adjourned sine die. But Madam Speaker, but ministers of government, but Madam Assistant National Youth Coordinator, but youth officers or community outreach officers, I submit humbly to this honorable place that the matters that are important to Grenada, to our young people, to St. Andrew, are in the right hands. You see, Ms. Mark said that I have been doing this for a while, and yes, I have, but this is not about me. This is about the young people who show up, and for those who trained directly under me before at the parish setting, who show up and show off every single time these opportunities present themselves. You see, it is important to engage young people in these kinds of discourse at this level. And I heard you, Madam Assistant Youth Coordinator, that we may be seeing some youth parliamentarians, well, not even youth, but members of cabinet, MPs at the national level now we're talking here in a couple years to come. And I submit to us that this has happened before. So let me applaud the Ministry of Youth for this initiative that uses these opportunities to shape the minds of our young people in such a way that they can elevate to a level where they contribute nationally to the discourse and to policy making. I wish to recognize while I'm here those who would have done this training before, and I particularly identify Madam Judge Anishel Thomas, who has trained under this program and can now serve as a judge. I wish to acknowledge the new, and I don't want to say those who are back again, but those who are new and have done this before as well. We appreciate what you are doing. Now, members of the audience in the room and listening to us, this is no easy feat. This is no easy feat. And while we tend to be generous with sometimes our negative criticism, I believe that we need to spend more time positively encouraging our young people, because this has taken time, effort, and guts to stand and deliver in front these audiences and to deliver in such a positive, confident, and I would say tremendous way. And so it's always a pleasure for me to engage with you guys, you know that. And I appreciate the opportunity, Madam Assistant Youth Coordinator. But I would also like to use this opportunity for those who are within the reach of my voice, who have never done this before to jump in, to engage, and to make use of this opportunity. You may not turn out to be a politician necessarily, but it will definitely help with your self-development. And so, please, when these calls come, do not shy away. Do not shy away. Show up and show off. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Sincere, for your inspiring words and your continued support. Next, we are also privileged to hear from the MP of this area, who is going to share with us some brief remarks, and we always look forward to his words of wisdom. Honorable Lennox Andrew, we welcome you to share some brief remarks.
So thank you very much indeed. I begin by recognizing the presence of my colleagues, Dr. Sincere, and all those who would have contributed to this activity here this afternoon. So I want to begin by saying that I have to say thanks to Minister Lacrette and his team for putting together this activity. It's a wonderful activity. I want to say thanks and commendation as well to the teachers and the guardians, the coaches who would have worked with the children and to prepare them for this activity. And I also want to commend you, the young leaders, the young parliamentarians, for preparing yourself as you did, and to be able to speak with passion, with eloquence, and with wittiness, and to give someone like me a special drive, a special motivation, a special enthusiasm that says that this country, in our country, Grenada, we have good people. We have very good young people. And what I saw manifested and demonstrated this evening was a reflection of the intelligence, the brilliance, the strong sense of nationalism, and the strong sense of patriotism that fills the heart and the mind of our young people. And that says to me that in our young people, there is that commitment and there is that drive. There is that feeling that as a nation and as a people, we strive to do what is good. We strive to always create a better society. We strive to improve the lives of every single Grenadian. But perhaps what stands out most from your discourse this afternoon is that if we have to build this country, we must educate our people. We must educate our children. We must make it easy for our children to be trained, to be exposed, and to be educated at the highest level, so that we can produce not just politicians, we can produce the engineers, we can produce the scientists, we can produce the many varied professionals that our country needs to grow and to develop and to transform. And I am seeing that vibes. I am seeing that vibes in you, young people, with all of your beauty, your charm, your handsomeness, your broad, welcoming smile, your captivating vocabulary, and your ability to expound with majesty and with eloquence, and with that sense of self-confidence that says that we can do it. We can do it. That we are capable. Personally, I feel good. I feel real good. Don't quote me, but I feel damn good. And so I'm very happy that I spend the time here this afternoon with you. You remind me of my years of youthful academic exploits. You bring back great memories of when I was a schoolboy, attending GBSS, taking part in debates, ringing the bell, being a member of the school's students' council, and calling the whole school out to demonstrate, because the politicians would have done something that wasn't right for the country. And so, my dear ones, let me tell you this. You're good. All of you, good. All of you, capable. All of you, nice. You are, by what I see demonstrated here is a sense of pride, a sense of national pride. So I want to encourage you, my dear ones, to continue studying. Continue to prepare yourselves. Continue to improve yourselves. Because Grenada needs you. Grenada needs you. Those who come after you, they need you too. And therefore, I feel comfortable to say, and I feel very relaxed to say, that the future of this our homeland, the future of this our homeland can be found in the brain cells, in the minds, in the commitment, in the direction, and in the vibes of you young people who stood up and spoke with eloquence and wittiness and chat and even said to us, politicians, you said to us, politicians, what we should do or what we can do to help solve a burning problem, a contemporary problem that faces our country, our nation, and our people. So I really want to thank you, but I cannot leave by saying again, please continue to study. Please continue to read. Please continue with your research. And please continue to take part in more activities of this kind. For in so doing, you are in fact securing the future of our homeland and of our people. Thank you very much.
You're good. You're capable. And you're good. You're nice. You're nice. Continue your youthful academic exploits. Words of wisdom from the Honorable Minister Andrew. We thank you for your inspiring words and your unwavering support for our youth initiatives. It is now my honor to introduce our next speaker, a stalwart in promoting youth and sports. Please welcome Senator the Honorable Jonathan Lacrette, Minister for Youth and Sports, to address us. Senator Lacrette.
With the adopted protocol, good evening to everyone. Prospective parliamentarians who will sit in the upper house and lower house in the future of Grenada's parliament. Job well done. Can we give them a round of applause, please? Thanks. I'll be brief. In Ezekiel chapter 37, the prophet found himself between a rock and a hard place, to the point where the Spirit of God asked him, "Can these bones live?" And he said to the Spirit of God, "Only you alone know, O Lord, whether these bones can live or not." And the Spirit of God motioned to him to speak to the dry bones and just see what happens when you speak to the bones. I submit to you, there are only certain issues in your country that only when you open your mouth and champion it, the issue would get solved. Don't lose your voice.
Thank you. Testing, testing. I'm just making sure I don't lose my voice, you know? Yes. Thank you, Senator Lacrette, for your motivational speech as always, and for your continued commitment to empowering our young people. And we now move to a very special part of our program, the presentation of certificates. Now, this segment celebrates the hard work and dedication and achievement of our exceptional youth participants. As each name is called, we invite the recipients to come forward and accept your certificate. I invite Senator Lacrette to assist with the distribution. Ms. Edgar? Avion Philip. Brandon Felix. Christy Edwards. Derica Samuel. Donola Noel. Elizabeth Bowen. Amanda Japal George. Emerson Callist. Jaden Alexander. Joshua Andel. Carrie Ann Marast. Cameron Sincere. Kishaya Lewis. Kevon George. We thank the Minister, the Honorable Minister, for his kind service. We now call on Dr. Sincere to assist us with the distribution. Kezia Alexander. Latisha Kadu. Princess Thomas. Rachel Nichols. Renard Peters. Trudy Gill. Zadie Barry. Alex Morel. Donola Noel. Thank you, Dr. Sincere. All right, so congratulations to all our certificate recipients. Your achievements are commendable, and we look forward to seeing your continued success. Congrats. As we come to the end of this memorable event, I would like to invite Ms. Princess Thomas to extend our gratitude.
Ladies and gentlemen, as we close this splendid event, it is my pleasure to deliver the vote of thanks. It's said that gratitude is the memory of the heart, and today our hearts are overflowing. First and foremost, our sincere thanks go to Ms. Janella Edwards, our Acting Assistant Coordinator of Youth, for her warm and insightful welcome remarks. Ms. Edwards, you set the perfect tone for this event and with your enthusiasm and commitment to the youth. Thank you to Ms. Sincere for your insightful comments and your continued dedication to the Youth Parliament program. Your commitment and support are truly appreciated. A special thanks to the Honorable Lennox Andrew, MP for St. Andrews Southwest, for gracing us with your presence and sharing your inspiring words. Your dedication to the community shines through in everything you do, and today was no exception. Our gratitude also extends to Senator the Honorable Jonathan Lacrette, Minister of Youth and Sport. Your brief remarks were a testament to your unwavering support for our youth and their potential. We are truly fortunate to have a passionate advocate in you. To all other ministers and senators and ministry officials who graced us with their presence, we thank you for showing up for us today. To our judges, Ms. Anshel Thomas, Mrs. Asha Baptiste Thomas, and Mrs. Marian Marast, thank you for your time and effort in adjudicating our debate. Your insightful feedback and fair judgment are greatly appreciated. We must also acknowledge the effort behind the scenes, our organizers, volunteers, and everyone who contributed to making this event a success. Your hard work does not go unnoticed. Finally, to our recipients of the certificates, congratulations. Your achievements are a beacon of hope and a reminder of the bright future ahead. Keep reaching for the stars. In conclusion, thank you all for your participation and presence here today. Let's continue to support and uplift our youths, for they are the architects of tomorrow. Safe travels, and may we all carry the spirit of today forward. Thank you, and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, Princess, for that gracious vote of thanks. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes our program for today. On behalf of the organizing committee and the Ministry of Youth, I extend my heartfelt thanks to each and every one of you for your presence and participation. Let's continue to support and uplift our youth, for as Princess reminded us, they are truly the architect for a brighter future. And as she also said, safe travels and have a wonderful evening. Thank you.